Welcome back. So we'll continue with our Salesforce Admin Level 1 exam, focus on force questions, practice test questions, and we completed up to number 30 in the previous parts, and this is part number 5, and we would do number 31, which is which option should be selected while choosing an action type to create an object-specific quick action that launches a Lightning Web component. That means that when we create an object-specific quick action to launch a Lightning Web component, what kind of an action type should we select to launch Lightning Web component? And here the option is Lightning Web component. So, and there is an awesome article, given here by salesforcehelp.com, and it does say that creating an action is similar to creating a regular quick action, and you do it in the same place in setup for most of the objects it supports to. So we'll check. And okay, unlike global quick actions, object-specific action supports Lightning Web components to create a Lightning component quick action. The Lightning Web component action type is selected. The Lightning component option is selected when creating a quick action using an Aura component. A Lightning component option, this one, is selected when creating a quick action using a Aura component. But if we want to use the Lightning Web component, we use Lightning Web component action. The flow option is selected in order to launch a flow using a quick action, and a customer component is not a valid action type, which is one of this option. Moving to the next question. Go. What are the valid reasons for using a custom fiscal year? I want to go ahead and use custom fiscal year instead of the standard fiscal year. What are the valid reasons? Choose number 2. So first is a fiscal year does not start on the first day of the month, maybe. An organization wish to follow the Georgian calendar. When the organization wish to follow a Georgian calendar, it's a standard fiscal year. So not this. There are 13-week fiscal quarters. Yeah, that could be there. And a fiscal year does not start in January. Well, okay, so here we see that this is from the help.salesforce.com. So the standard fiscal year follows the Georgian calendar. So we can waive off this out of our list, but starts on the first day of any month we choose. Okay, it follows the Georgian calendar and starts like January, then it's the first day of the month we choose. Versus custom fiscal year is a structure which we define. For example, if we want 13 weeks, there are 13-week fiscal quarter, which is like 4 quarter with 13 weeks per quarter. You could have 4 quarters with 13 weeks per quarter. So it's 4, 4, and 5 pattern, or 13 periods per year. Then we choose custom fiscal year. It does, and it also gives us an ability to choose the start date of any month according to our wish. So for example, if your fiscal year is September, August, the fiscal year beginning is September 2008 and end in this one, you can either have that to be FY 2008 per calendar or per end of the month. So, it gives more of any customization. So it doesn't need to start on the first day of the month. So we'll go check this. Well, so it also, when we enable the custom fiscal year in the setup, it also tells us here that you can define the same thing which we read here. And after enabling your custom, this is important, custom fiscal year, your organization fiscal years will no longer be automatically defined by Salesforce. So even if you decide to go back in a Georgian calendar, you have to define it by the custom fiscal year. If you have forecasting feature enabled, when we do this, the records does get that does get affected. After enabling custom fiscal year, you cannot revert to the standard fiscal year. However, you can define your custom fiscal year to match a standard fiscal year. So they do ask us to do this agreement whenever we enable the custom fiscal year. So that's about it. Going to the next question, which is, an organization has recently enabled multiple currency. Additional currencies were added and activated for the user. What will user experience be when they create a new opportunity record? So additional currencies were added and also activated, and when the new opportunity record is created, user will be able to create opportunity in any currency. User will be able to create opportunity with any active currency. User can only create opportunity in corporate currency, or user will be able to create opportunity only in the user default currency. Well, they can create an opportunity in any active currency, and depending on how our multiple currency advanced setting are, like are there any exchange rates and stuff, there would be the further refinement of the exchange be done. So after multiple currencies enabled, the administrator need to maintain a list of and a conversion rate relative to the corporate currency. The active currency represents the country in which organization does business. Only the active currency can be used in the currency amount field. All right, moving ahead to number 34. A Salesforce administrator is told that the sales rep profile should no longer have access to tab available in the app. Which tab setting should Salesforce administrator use? They don't want any access, no access at all. So that means it can be tab hidden. So a tab hidden setting means that tab will not be visible by default and user cannot enable it and cannot find it. Default off allows tab to still be visible when they search through the app launcher, which is like when we go to the 9 dot and search it here, but it won't be present here. And then on allows you to search as well as available on the nav bar. So this can be done at the profile level, like we can turn off, on, or default tab hidden. So off, on, hidden. And also, like if it is off, default off, then it could be available on the 9 dot app launcher. So that is how one can hide the tab from the profile, because it says rep profile, right? Number 35, where in an org could a Salesforce administrator see how many remaining Salesforce licenses are available? Well, this is in the company information page. So in the company information page, when we go, which is company information page, we can go ahead and see how many licenses are used, how many total licenses, what is the status, how many are used, what are the remaining, and what are the expiration dates. This also tells license permission set licenses, like and it also gives us more if we just recalling here that company information, so company, default local, default language, default time zone, also the data usage, file usage. These are repetitive questions, so I'm just repeating one more time here. Org ID. It also says org edition, which is, this is a developer edition, and it also kind of gives a corporate currency if that is enabled. In this org, it is enabled, and hence. Well, we need to check too. So, okay, so the where in the org licenses are available. So that is one. And then another option is manage users. So we'll go ahead and do this exercise together so that it stucks in the head. What are the answers? So when we go to the manage user, so users, go here. And do we see the license details here? Let's see, license, user license. So this is user license, but it doesn't tell us like, how many are remaining. Well, this system overview page. So this is like environment and system overview. This gives really a health check of the whole system, like, what are the rules, what is the data storage, and kind of in one-stop shop to see across. And it does have number of license and most license use. Check. So within the company information page, yeah, we saw that, and also in the system overview. Okay, moving to number 36. Global Insurance has recently switched to Lightning experience. Service agent complained about having to wade through performance chart and top deals instead of new cases on the home page. Sales representative, on the other hand, refuses to accept any change on the current home page. How can Salesforce Administrator address the need of sales representative and a service agent? So the company named Global Insurance, they have switched to Lightning experience. There are two parts here: service agents and sales agent. Service agent complains about having to wade through performance chart and top deal instead of new cases on the home page. So they want a different kind of a home page, versus sales representatives say, hey, we like home page and we don't want any changes. So how can an administrator address the need of both the agents? So one is like, use Visuals Force to customize the home page. Well, no, we have Lightning. It is more flexible. Advise user that they can customize their own home page. It is not possible to customize the home page or use Lightning App Builder to customize the home page for different profile. Remember, like, when we activate the Lightning using the Lightning App Builder, we can assign the home page or the record pages or the app pages at the org level, at the app level, and also at the app and profile and record type level. And the precedence is like, the app level will override the org level settings. So this is the answer. So app page, home page, record page. AHR. So create a new Lightning page, and then this was I was talking about the org default, the app default, and any app and the profile. So this is like, you set app for that particular profile. You can add an assignment and remove an assignments from here. Moving to the next one, a Salesforce administrator is moving an app from developer sandbox to their UAT environment. What is required to use change sets between two org? Well, the answer is that to have a change set, if we go here in help.salesforce.com, this is a great place where, they have mentioned that to have a change set, like we will need an outbound change set and an inbound change set, which basically creates a connection between a deployment connection between the two orgs. Well, that makes sense, right? It's a self-explanatory that there is a deployment connection between the two org needed, and both org are affiliated with the same production org. Like I cannot have an company A's UAT environment and put it into the company B's other sandbox environment, or vice versa, or something like that. So it has to be a part of the same production org, and also a connection inbound change set and outbound change set must be made through. What is true regarding the change set? A change set can be deployed after validation. If the change set deployment fails, entire transaction is rolled back. Change sets are always created in sandbox organization and deployed in production. And if the change set deployment is successful, it can roll back as needed. Okay, so the answer is that if the change set deployment fails, the entire transaction is rolled back. This works exactly like in a workbench, which is like, if any part of the deployment fails or the changes are rolled back, the default run local, run all tests, and all specified. So, so it is change set are typically created in sandbox and deployed in production, but they can be sent other way as well. The successful deployment cannot be rolled back. It is recommended but not required to validate a change set before the deployment. Also, one thing important here, which has been said, like, it can be done vice versa, sandbox to production, production to sandbox, which is like, it does say it does say that the change sets best practices to do this way, but the other way is also possible, and it would roll over as and when there is an failures. Also, there is one more thing, which is like in test. So when we do from sandbox to production, the Apex tests are run automatically, but for the reverse, the Apex test won't be run automatically, like so where did I read it? I'll show you in some time. Let me come back. But basically, it's that when we do it, deploy in the production, the Apex test runs automatically, and vice versa, the runs doesn't occur automatically. Moving to the question number 39, the data architect at the Cosmic Innovation is reviewing the measures in place to ensure that Salesforce org complies with data regulation related to the protection of personal information. Which of the following considerations are valid related to identifying the personal and sensitive data? So what is defined under personal and sensitive data in the Salesforce? Answer 3, choose 3. The personal data could be stored in any standard or custom object. An example of personal data is name, date of birth, and email address. A person's name would always be considered a personal data. An example of the sensitive data is medical and insurance record related to an individual. And a personal data is only stored in a contact object. Okay, so the answer is that personal data could be stored, in any object, standard and custom. An example of the personal data is name, date of birth, and email address. An example and medical insurance. So let's read through. I chose this by mistake. Well, we can save the data in any object we want to, the personal informations. Because the email goes in a user object and not in the contact. So personal data is any data regarding a person that can be used to identify an individual person, including location data and online identifiers. Sensitive data is subcategory of the personal data and encompasses of race, ethnic origin, genetic data, religious and the political views, and then sexual orientation. Salesforce has several objects that can contain personal data, which includes but are not limited to leads, contact, opportunity, accounts, and custom objects. Additional protection needs to be provided to sensitive data, as unauthorized access could lead to damage, harm, and the loss. So now we know the difference between personal data, anything personal information, and then sensitive data is a subset of the personal data, which includes the medical records, insurance, and stuff. By itself, a name of a person such as Peter Smith may not always be personal because there are many individuals with that name. However, if the name is combined with other information such as email, phone number, etc., then it can be in personal information. Example of the personal data that could be used to identify an individual using either one or following number of the pieces of the information combined: name, age, title, phone number, etc., social security number, bank account number, or the passport information. These are all considered as in personal and sensitive informations, the example of the sensitive data: healthcare related information, medical records, and insurance information. The example of the personal related data is bank account number and passport numbers, but they aren't considered as sensitive. But healthcare, anything goes under CAPA, something which is medical term. Well, I don't remember, but these are all considered under the sensitive data. So yeah, moving forward. Cosmic Innovation is a US-based company planning to start marketing and selling its product in Europe. It will not establish an office in Europe. It will be using Salesforce to record leads and manage sales opportunities. Which of the following would a data architect need to consider to ensure compliances of the GDPR regulations? Any data collected related to European individual that becomes inactive will need to be deleted after 3 years. What are the GDPR regulations? Because companies in Europe and they are trying to sell a product, and companies in US and trying to sell the product in Europe. All data collected related to European prospect or customer will need to be encrypted. A GDPR regulation will not apply as Cosmic Innovation will not establish an office in Europe, or all personal and sensitive data will need to be protected. Well, yeah. So these are the key principles of the GDPR: legitimate purpose, data deletion, security, accountability, accurate, and consent. Personal data must be handled according to the key principles. What are these key principles? Legitimate purpose, data deletion, secure. Personal data must be deleted if it is no longer required for the original purpose. Security, accountability, a data is handled according to the GDPR. Accuracy must be accurate and kept up to date. And consent, a consent to collect and store personal information must be freely given specified information, and personal data must be, data must be kept secure and measures put in place to prevent unauthorized access, disclosure, loss, destruction, or alteration. Personal data can only be collected for a legitimate purpose. So these are all the GDPR, and these all three options are part of that key principles. Any data collected will become inactive and need to be deleted. So that goes under data deletion. Then, all data collected will need to be encrypted. Well, it depends on what the security measurements, accountability, and consents are up to. And also GDPR regulations will not apply, and Cosmic Innovations, well, this is not true. Since they are doing business and they are collecting information, then they would need it. Which are valid options when moving change sets from one Salesforce environment to another? Any two sandboxes, any sandboxes that belong to the same production org, any sandboxes to any production org, any developer addition to any sandbox, a sandbox and associated production org. Which are the valid option when moving a change set? New. A sandbox and an associated production org. Two sandboxes that belong to same org. Change set can only be sent between two org that are connected to single production org, such as two sandboxes of a production org or a sandboxes and its production org. For migrating metadata from one org environment to different org environment, another tool can be used, such as VS Code or and migration tool. So sandbox to sandbox, sandbox to production org. I guess not from the developer edition. No, not from the developer edition to any sandbox. All right, moving to the next one. Which of the following are typically used for moving metadata from Salesforce developer sandbox to test sandbox when both are affiliated? We need to deploy the metadata. We just read in the previous that metadata cannot be deployed. Metadata is a data which holds more data. Certainly needs to read through more of the change set things, but change sets are used Which of the following are typically used for moving metadata from developer sandbox to test sandbox? Metadata change sets can be used, and metadata file. A change sets can be used to send customization from one Salesforce org to another. A developer sandbox is one of the type of the sandbox and supports change set. On the other hand, metadata files, XMLs, are used to move metadata using VS codes. Okay, so metadata file is VS code, so change set or metadata. But if we read on the previous ones, so for migrating metadata from one org environment to different org, another tool such as VS Code could also be used. Because change sets can only be used sent between org that are connected to single production org, such as sandbox to production or sandbox and sandbox of production to or sandbox of an production org. Moving to the next one. Developer of the Cosmic Solutions has created new sandbox from company's production org of the Salesforce, which are following change sets and setting up deployment connections. So they are trying to create a new sandbox from company's production org. So it's allow inbound changes in the production org. We are trying to create a production sandbox from the production org. Deployment connections are automatically created between related orgs when a sandbox is created. Although a deployment connection exists, inbound change sets needs to be authorized. A deployment connection definition within the production org needs to have allow inbound changes for deployment connection created for the sandbox. Number 44, Acme Appliances has number of the knowledge article that should be exposed on customer service side. The article covers 4 areas: new product, customer service, resources, and best practices. What features needs to be set up to allow the articles to be separated from their respective area and view on the site?